What's happening, everybody? Hope you're all having a great Wednesday. That was fun to have a close call last night. It would have been really nice had I gotten any production from that little Houston mini stack. Or
What's happening, everybody? Hope you're all having a great Wednesday. That was fun to have a close call.
Apparently, I've got my. It's nothing worse than hearing the sound of your own voice to start a show. Anyway, guys, say what's up when you get in the chat. Ask any questions. I'll talk about what I'm doing. I am mostly filtering my pitchers between on DraftKings, Ohtani, Ryan, Morton, Montgomery. Morton was my favorite. I have a little bit of concern with both Morton and Ohtani, both having extreme hitters umpires, and Mark with Alfonso Marquez. And on Morton's case, that's a little bit of a concern for me. So I'm giving a little bit of more love to Joe Ryan, and I'm mixed on the Montgomery play. I have played some of him, but I also like a Baltimore stack, which I'll get to. Stacks in order for me are 1 and 1A with the Yankees and Braves. The Toronto would be the next one for me, but I really like mixing in a Cleveland mini stack or a full stack or a Baltimore mini stack, potentially a full stack, more likely a mini stack for Baltimore. That's sort of the ways that I'm trying to get different on this slate. I do think you could make an argument for pitching a guy like, I just want to throw out one other pitcher. I'm not going to do it. Pineda against his former team, it's just the weather's so bad there that I feel like that you could take advantage of it from a pitching perspective. But I think I'm probably going to hold off. Otherwise, I probably would have stacked against him if it was nice hitting weather, but it is pretty lousy. So I am not going to be playing much of the Detroit, Minnesota, anything, even though I'm kind of intrigued at the idea of taking Pineda in like a couple tournament lineups. I think what I'll probably end up doing is taking a long shot on Eunice, who I actually think is a really viable option that people aren't considering. So that's what I'm doing with pitching. I told you the stacks. I think the Baltimore mini stack, they're super cheap. Atlanta, there's plenty of ways to stack them. So you can stack them a bunch of different ways. And you can get some low ownership that way. I'm just taking a quick look at my ownership reports here. And let's see. It's not updated for some reason. Let me take another quick look, get my SaberSim stuff, and we'll be right there. And I will get to your guys' questions in a moment. So, all right. Yeah, so as far as ownership goes, basically you're going to see the highest owned are going to be Toronto and Atlanta, I believe. I oddly am not seeing as high a projection for the Yankees as I would have thought on this slate. I am very happy to go right back to the Yankees here. It makes perfect sense to me. I think you can make an argument for Houston and Texas as well, but I really want to try and keep it smaller. So I'm trying to mainly focus around the Atlanta and Yankee builds. And I just think the Yankees are going to be more owned than they're being projected for what it's worth. And the Atlanta, you could include Swanson, Dickerson, or Demerit, who none of those guys I expect to be particularly high owned. And I think if you include two of them, then you are definitely getting different within the stack that you want to stack if you do like those stacks, which I do. I think Cleveland is the team that is going to be crazy low owned. And Ohtani, we just know his boom bust nature. Like we've seen it for a while now. I mean, he gets lit up and then he goes out and pitches a gem. I'm going to take some shots on some Cleveland bats just to try and get a little different on the slate. It's a pretty small slate. So anyway, all right, let's see. We've got a bunch of stuff in chat. Let's get it, guys. I will talk about basketball if anybody has any questions. A 2-game slate, not playing much in basketball myself. I did post my early builds. Let's see. BVP against Montgomery. So who specifically you want to talk about with the BVP against Montgomery? Because I did look at this earlier, and I didn't. I mean, I guess you've got the Mancini has a bunch of hits off of him, but it's almost like worse when a guy doesn't have power. I mean, he's hit 1 home run in 23 at bats. That's nothing incredible. And I really, really hate when people who work for our site try and tag me in messages in our Discord while I'm on live, because there's obviously no way I can answer it for like 2 hours. We've got other stuff. I've got to finish building after this. Anyway, sorry about that. Back to it. Mancini has, his 10 hits and 24 bats. That's all good. No interest in Miami, not playing any game with that weather. I think Fetty is actually more viable than Miami is for me. If Miami does get there, I see them getting there in a non-thrill. It's a 55-degree temperature with winds blowing in at 12 miles an hour. That is not an enticing thing for a lineup that has that many righties in it, especially. And I never get, cool. It's cool to have a different stack. You can go ahead and do it. I have zero interest in stacking that game. That game is really, really awful for weather. Let's see what else we got here. And yeah, all right. But firing on in any questions. For what it's worth, I just think that I'm going to take a look again at the ownership for the Yankees, because I just am having a hard time with where I'm seeing them projected at. Having only 3 players in double-digit ownership, like, just doesn't feel right to me. It feels like, I mean, you have the highest run total on the slate. Basically, you have some guys that are affordable, like Gallo, who you can mix in with guys that are expensive. I just think there's a lot of ways to go with this, and I am going to be all over that one myself. It's just what I'm doing, and I'm going to see real quick. I'm not going to give away what Rody's core is, but I want to see for my own sake. It doesn't look like I have Rody's core for some reason. Maybe I need to update or something, because it's not showing me Rody's core. It's just got it written in, but no players listed actually. So I hope I'm not the only. I hope I'm the only one. Yeah, the ownership does seem off for multiple teams. I agree with Rody on that. Let's see, BVP against Montgomery. That I'm guessing that was in relation to Mancini, which I already addressed. Braves highest owned, Yankees third highest projected on RG. Yeah, yeah. That's not entirely true, actually. How can the Braves be I mean, I'm looking at the RG projections as well as the SaberSim projections, and the Yankees only have 4 players that are over 10% owned, probably 3. Stanton's just barely over there. So wouldn't Toronto be more? Because Toronto's got 3 guys over 25% owned. And then you get Gurriel, who's going to they have around 15. I think Collins might be more popular than people think. But yeah, I know Atlanta's popular. I told you the way to get around it is to you can stack through the bottom of the order, play like the Swanson, Dickerson with the studs you like. And I think you get a little bit off the board that way with that Atlanta stack. The reason there's more chalk on this slate is, one, it's small, and the weather is terrible for hitting in Washington and Minnesota. So you basically have 2 games, and San Francisco for that matter. You basically have 3 games that you don't really want any hitting from. So you really it becomes a small slate pretty quickly. That's just where I am anyway. I don't mind if you want to take a weird shot with a giant stack. I'm just not doing it myself. Hello to John Jenkins. Yeah, I refreshed, man. I'm still not able to get your core. Don't know what's happening with that, but I can double check again. I'm gonna go through it. Let's see. For the main slate, Rody, right? Like you have it up there, but so there must be somebody in there. I just don't see any core. Maybe it's something with my. No, there we go. I got it now. Okay, nice. In business with Rody's core. Fairly, definitely some crossover, but he's going for a little bit more of these of these. I like it, actually, a little bit of these Red Sox, which I wouldn't mind taking a shot on. So I actually think that's kind of an interesting way to go. Tony, yeah, no problem on the Rizzo one. Yeah, he was great test. There's really nothing else we could do about it. There's really nothing else we could do. If you had Rizzo and you had Gallo and Judge, which I did in my main lineup, it was a good night, but it could have been almost a great night. Some sites have Boston way higher than SaberSim. Yeah, I don't know. I don't personally think Boston is going to end up crazy popular, but I do think they're going to have some ownership for sure. And I think that they will be high owned. Like, I think that the Bogarts Story combination will be fairly high owned. I guess Devers and JD. So that does even out to being a little bit more owned. One thing I'll say for them, Stripling is probably as good as the pitchers in the 9Ks on this range. Probably worth noting. It's just that he's coming back from an injury. Who knows how long he's going to go, all that kind of stuff. And Boston's been terrible. That's the other thing. Their lineup has been absolutely dreadful, one of the worst in baseball. So I'm not doing it, but I don't mind anybody. I like the idea to get different. Unfortunately, they are going to be a little bit higher than I would even want. And I don't currently have like any Boston players in my lineup. So if they go off, I probably lose tonight. Rody did make his own core. Hingo, I'm confused. Just meant on Slate IQ, it might include pitchers and batter. I'm just trying to understand the question, Fred. What was the question? I don't know. Not exactly sure. Yeah, I thought they'd be lower on too, Rody. I still am kind of buying that they may end up. I mean, for what it's worth, SaberSim is 1,000 times more accurate than any other site I've looked at by far in general. Not all the time, of course, but like overall, it's astronomically. She's just been tracking this for a while, and they are like way, way closer every time a baseball slate comes around than any of the other sites are. Doesn't mean they're always right, just means that they're way closer. So I'm going to take a quick look and see what we've got for Boston, because I do think that's a good point. It's an appealing stack, but only really if it's low owned for me. And yes, Saberson has them only a few players over 10% and just barely over 10% at that. So if they're closer to being right, I think that does make for a good contrarian stack. No interest in the Marlins at all for me. I understand if you guys want to do that. I am not doing it. Horrible hitting weather. Just absolutely no way I'm going to do it. Pretty simple as that. Also, I think Fetty is more interesting, as I mentioned earlier, than Miami is. I don't have any interest in playing Miami. Again, if they're going to hit home runs if they can't hit home runs when it's 80 degrees outside, or even though I know they're playing a dome, but it's going to be hard and it's humid. It's going to be hard for them to hit home runs when the wind's blowing in 50 mile an hour, 50 degree temperatures. So I just personally think those are temperatures, especially early in the season, are really, really important. And I'm just going to take a quick look at what an average game, how much suppression we're talking about. It's incredible hitting weather for the Yankees in a way, even though it's cold, but you've got really strong winds going out to right center. So it's making me much more into that. Yeah, it's about as bad as it ever gets in Washington, this specific game. So I would really stay away from that. The Braves weather is nothing amazing either, but it is nice and warm at 74 degrees. The Minnesota and Miami weather, Miami/Washington weather is just, there's no way I'm playing stacks in those types of situations. Just never ever going to happen. I won't even play off one-off in that situation personally. I will say what I'm doing in basketball. I'm going to. I think these games could end up both being really, really bad blowouts. And I'm going to play probably 3 or 4 Bulls. And I'm going to probably play Jokic instead of Giannis. It's a toss-up for me with those two. And I'm probably going to play some weird in-between guys like Barton and Wiggins, just to give away a little bit of what I'm doing. But Poppin, any more questions? Any more thoughts about this slate? Any more thoughts about stacks? Any more thoughts about individual one-offs? Anything like that? And I'm happy to answer. It is worth noting that some of the top players, obviously there's some crossover in position. So it makes it like weird to stack the Braves and the Yankees together, like for example. So it's actually, even though they're both going to be owned, it won't be like owned as a combo as much as you think, just because of the people wanting to play Rizzo. I think Judge will be owned, but I don't know. I just think that's an interesting route to build, but it is going to be a little too chalky. So you probably have to the bottom of the orders there. One guy who I'm going to go make a bold call on today, not to hit a home run necessarily, but to have a big day. It's his favorite matchup. The guy just crushes every time they play Baltimore. So the greatest hitter in Yankee history against the Orioles is Gleyber Torres. So I'm going to take a little bit of Gleyber Torres and hope it works out in my favor. I didn't play him yesterday. That would have been nice. Anyway, these guys going in chat, really frustrating the hell out of me because it just pops up and I want to answer the questions, but I can't. I don't have time to do it. Favorite Bulls are in order. Well, it depends on who's starting, first of all. I'm always going to answer that question that way. We don't know who's starting. We're speculating, but it should be White. White's a virtual lock. Like I said with Oladipo last night, like once he's starting, you basically can't really fade him last night. I mean, if you faded Oladipo, there's no way you could have made money last night. And I think that Kobe White and Desonmu both have the same potential at the same price that Oladipo was yesterday. I'm tending to mix those guys with DeRozan or Patrick Williams, and where I'm not using those guys, I might use some Derek Jones Jr. or Javonte Green. So those would be the main ones, though, White and Desonmu. For the Yankees, if you're building a mini stack, who would I play on DK? Good question. If I was going to build a mini Yankee stack, I would always want Judge or Stanton, but I don't like Stanton. Like Stanton comes out of the game in the 7th inning every game. It feels like it's not as exciting to play him. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I'm much more on the Judge side of things, but it would be Judge. I like Judge, then Rizzo, then Gleyber, then LeMahieu. Then after that would be Donaldson. Donaldson overall is usually a much better play than LeMahieu is. He just doesn't look right, man. He doesn't look right with his swing. So that's the way I would rank those guys. Lopez and Ryan on DK. Go ahead. I've got it myself. Thumbs up on that one, Hingo. Let's see. Keep firing them in, though. I like the last question about, who exactly I'm stacking. I want to go back to that. I think a mini Cleveland stack is a really solid way to go. I think that you can, you've got Naylor, who should be in the lineup and cheap, and the lineup still isn't out yet. You've got Ramirez and Reyes, who are all, and these guys are going to be unowned. And I'm just pointing out that Ohtani has a bust path in him. He does have that side to him. So I really think that's an interesting route to go, is to you play the ultimately streaky team in Cleveland and you play the ultimate streak pitcher in Ohtani. Sort of like you play some Ohtani and you play some Cleveland. That's the way I'm treating it. All right, I'm going to take a quick look at this, guys. Pop in some more questions. I really, let's see. Just joined. Do you still stand by your Orioles? Yes, absolutely. Love the bats as like a 3 or a 4 man. I don't think I want to go with a full stack against the Yankees, who have one of the best bullpens in baseball. Also, though they got lit up pretty good yesterday. I like the Hayes, Mancini, Chirinos combination is probably my favorite. Drew Holiday's fine. There's nothing. I mean, I would rather play Steph than Drew Holiday if it was me tonight. But yeah, he's fine. I don't think there's anything different about 40 some odd % owned Drew Holiday. He's totally fine. I'm looking at these, that these Yankee numbers are making me even check. I was going to stack the bottom of the Yankees, do the 6, 7, 8, 9 Judge, the 6, 7, 8, 9 2. But I don't even know if I need to get that creative if their ownership stays like this. So I may not. And for what it's worth, yes, it would have been very nice if I built the 5-man stack last night. I would have had to figure out what I was going to spend, how I was going to spend my other spots. I don't think I could have done it easily, but it would have been nice had I had Glaber in there and I would have won the 200K. So that would have been a nice one. Who wins the Mexico Open? I honestly think that the chalk answer is Rahm. Who other than Rahm? My bet would be Answer. If I had to bet on another guy, it would probably be a sneaky one, like either I'll go with the local thing, the Munoz or Ortiz. I like Davis Riley and Joseph Bramlett as sort of sneaky, could be in contention guys too. DeRozan, Vooch, Holiday, or Poole. DeRozan for me. That's who I've got. Favorite app stack on FanDuel? Should I use Yankees chalk? So the Yankees on FanDuel are a little even easier to get in. I'm eating some Yankees chalk, but I'm getting it mixed up. I mean, you have other guys who are really cheap. I'm trying to mix in my Cleveland with the Yankees over there, playing a little Jose Ramirez and Rosario, and then we do have the Cleveland lineup out now. And let me just see who's in this Cleveland lineup before I see anything, because it came out we were on air. All right. Yeah. Okay, Rosario, Miller's batting 4th, Naylor 5th, Reyes 6th. Maybe throw a little Owen Miller into your lineups today too. I do think these guys are going to be unowned, and I'm just going to bet on some of the upside. And you got decent-ish weather in LA. For LA, it's not great, but it's 66 degrees. The wind's blowing slightly out. It's not too bad. So I'm on that. For MLB cash, should you stack or top projected plays? It totally depends on the slate. I think you're fine just getting your best plays in, and any correlation. Also depends on the site. I would tend to go more correlative on FanDuel than I would on DraftKings, but in general, you just want your best plays. That's the main way to do it. Bobby Portis is fine. Not playing him any, but there's power forward is really weak, so you can definitely play him, because power forward, if you're not playing Giannis, is the weakest position. I wouldn't play Portis and Giannis in the same lineup. For what it's worth. All right, let's keep going here. Let's see. We got the Mexico Open question. We did do a golf video. It was kind of a bumbling around one. I was struggling this morning. It was a rough morning. I kind of just couldn't sleep afterwards. I really thought I had this feeling I was going to win that tournament, and I just needed the one big hit. And I had my guys, the 3 0 for 5ers just did nothing for me. Even my Dodgers cooperated by not going off, so I was still going to be in pretty good shape, and it just never got there. Then I had a chance to win the $10 if Mookie hit a home run. But he didn't. So I ended up in 30th in that one. But I was literally like a Mookie home run away from having that one, because I had the freaking nuts other than Mookie in that lineup. It was nuts. Grayson Allen has just been hot. That's it. You're going to bet on a guy who's going to, he can make threes. If he shoots if he shoots 85% from three, I think Grayson Allen's a really good play. So do with that what you will. The only thing that's Grayson Allen's kind of appealing is that people aren't really that into him tonight, and he can get hot. But the truth is, you're looking at two extreme outliers where he made 11 out of 14 threes in the last two games. And that's really asking for a lot. He also had 3 steals in the last game, which is something that he's not a big stocks guy in general, but he has had 5 over the last 2 games, stocks for what it's worth, but I wouldn't be relying on that. And on DraftKings, he's certainly more in play than he is on FanDuel. I don't think you can play Grayson Allen on FanDuel and feel good about it, but it's fine. Again, betting on hot shooting streaks is a weird thing. Like, it's just a weird thing for a role player. Like, he could definitely keep doing it. It's just something about that, there's a reason why he projects so poorly, because he's not going to make every shot he takes basically every time. Favorite pitcher on FanDuel for GPPs is the GPP thing doesn't matter. It's pitchers are, you want the plays, right? You want to be in the game at least. So unless you're going to take the big swing, your cash game pitcher is going to be my starting pitcher most of the time. And by the way, for all the talk about how, all the top pitchers are being crushed, all it's been hurting, you've desperately needed the top pitchers lately because they've been going off lately. You've desperately needed at least 1 or 2 of the top guys to basically get there. So for what it's worth, this is one of those slates where I don't think you necessarily do, but the guy I'm using the most is Joe Ryan, and it would be the same for me in cash. I'm not crazy. I'm a little worried about this Morton with the bad ump. Morton's right there with Joe Ryan for me. And then next would be Montgomery, then Ohtani probably. Maybe Lopez, then Ohtani. I like Ohtani, but at really high ownership at this price, I don't want to play massive chalk for a guy who's highly volatile. So that's just my personal take, but I think he probably goes out and has a strong game. I think Eunice is a really creative play, and I'm using him in about 10% of my lineup. So yeah, I do think he's a good play. It's just there's no one else in that price tier that I like, and I think that he's got enough upside. You can always get caught in those games though. It's just a little risky, so I wouldn't ever make it more than like a 10%er. But I like the idea of like a 10% Eunice or so tonight. All right, guys, keep popping in anything. I'm here for another few minutes if anybody has anything else. If not, I'm going to take care of this. I love everybody. It's so interesting though, because like so many people, I'm happy to answer anything for everybody, but sometimes I feel like people just want to vent and complain in chat, and I just am like, not in this chat, of course, in Discord or obviously on Twitter, but it's like, if we can come up with a solution, we'll try and come up with a solution. I'll be right. I'll get to it when I get off. Anyway, the bad ump narrative. That's not a narrative. That's just a thing. That's a factor. If you don't factor in umpires for pitchers, you're probably playing DFS wrong, especially in tournaments. And by the way, can I get a little credit for my Sandoval call last night? Like a little bit. I loaded up on that guy, and he wasn't even in my best lineup, or he was in my best lineup on in the $10, but not in my 1K. But I said Bill Miller behind the plate to play Sandoval. That's his problem, is with control. And if he controls it, if he's got Bill Miller behind the plate, he's not going to have to worry as much about it. And what do you go out there and see? You get the best pitching performance of the night. So, all right. Looks like that with that, the questions are drying up. Do I like any low-owned outfielders tonight? Yeah, of course. There's a ton of these guys I mentioned are low-owned. So let's see. I'll just tell you the outfielders that I'm playing. I'm playing a lot of Mancini, and I'm playing Mancini, Mullins, Hayes on the Baltimore side. I am eating some of the Judge chalk. I'm playing some Springer chalk. I'm playing some Ozuna chalk in stacks. I'm playing Franmil Reyes quite a bit. I don't think that's going to be owned at all. I'm playing the bottom end of the Braves, and they just can't, like, Demerit can't be that high owned tonight because you've got Dickerson right there, and Dickerson can't be that owned because Demerit's right there. And it's just, there's only 3 positions for it. So you can't have all of them be popular. They've also got Ozuna in there, obviously, as well. But Judge, Hayes, Mancini are probably my most owned, with some Gallo, Dickerson, Springer. I probably should get a little exposure to Stanton. But those are not the low owned ones. The lower one, Gallo is not projected to be very owned, by the way, for what it's worth. None of the Cleveland guys are going to be owned. So again, Naylor in that first base or the outfield. That's sort of the guys who I'm playing tonight. Nick, I love it, buddy. Always wants to start with the baseball, this guy. All right, let's see what else we got. In regards to 200K sweat last night, would I have rather made a mini 3-man? I didn't build one off. There was a 2-man. It was a 2-man Braves stack. It was a 2-man Orioles. It was a 4-2-1-1. And no, I liked what I did. Would I have liked to have done things different? But I did do that. I mean, I couldn't have afforded the pitchers that I did because I played Gaussman in that lineup along with Rodon, and I wanted to play my favorite Yankees, and I got the right ones. So I had to pay down. So the only way to do it, you can't just make up and say, okay, well, there's a stack. I wanted to do it with a stack I actually wanted. I liked Houston, didn't work. And they were super cheap. And the guys batting first and second, they just happened to go 0-for-5 each. That's not going to happen all that often. And then you got the what's it called stack? My favorite one-offs from the Texas side of things, which I thought that Brad Miller was a little bit of chalk I could eat, especially when all of my guys, my main stack, the highest owned player was 8%. So I don't know. I don't think I should have done something different. I like what I did. Every catcher at 2K is playable for what it's worth, but I wouldn't be aiming to try and play him. I would rather play Chirinos than any Chirinos. Chirinos is my favorite cheap catcher. And my favorite catcher overall is Zach Collins. But Chirinos and Collins would be are scattered through my lineups along with some d'Arnaud, but d'Arnaud is going to end up being, I think, the more popular of the bunch. So trying to focus more on Chirinos and Collins. Obviously, Chirinos where I'm not playing Montgomery. All right, guys. Yeah, I mean, again, it's always easy to go back and say, oh, I could have done this and I could have done this. I have won so many tournaments doing exactly what I did. I'm going to take my plays the way what I do with them, and I like being questioned on it. But I also want people to understand that it's always weird to say, oh, but you could have done this and you would have won. Yeah, that's always going to happen. That could happen. I mean, every single lineup I've made, I could have just made this, and this, and I would have won. I could have just made this, and this, and I would have won. It's just the way it is. It's the way this thing goes. Sometimes it happens. Is Otto bad? No, I think he's medium. Medium on the slightly poor end. You could use him. He's usable. He's going to have some ownership. You can play Otto. I personally would rather play Eunice, but I think Otto's playable. I actually think he's got some talent. I don't know. I go back and forth on him. So I'd like to see him pitch a little bit more before I totally fully commit. But as of right now, I have them on the lower end side for this slate. But I what is he going to be owned? He's going to be the let's see what he's going to be owned. Sorry, let me update my projections. If you were getting like 1% on him or something, I would do it. Let's see, Otto. We are going to see that Otto is projected. Well, he is going to be one. I didn't realize he was going to be quite that. I think there's you could take this shot. I'm not going to do it personally. He had a good outing against the worst team in baseball in Oakland. Doesn't really do anything for me. So I'm not doing the Otto thing. I have no problem if you want to take that stance. Look at me. I mean, I'm playing some Eunice for Christ's sake. So can't complain if you play Otto. At least we know he's pitching. Anyway, guys, thanks so much. I'll be in Discord if any questions or things pop up. Let's crush it tonight. Hopefully we can have some more sweats and somebody can take something down tonight, whether it's a full stack or not. Let's try and do it tonight. Good luck, everybody.